Is being cringe the biggest sin a person can commit in 2025? No, it isn't. Obviously, you could do crimes and stuff or enjoy Peter Drury commentary. But it is definitely something that will garner negative attention. Prolonged negative attention if you are unlucky enough to have your cringe behavior recorded, uploaded to the internet and broadcast worldwide. And the duration of that prolonged negative attention might actually exceed the prolonged negative attention you'd get if you did an actual crime. If you stole a car and like crashed it into a lamppost at like 15 miles an hour and no one was hurt, you might not even go to prison. It might hurt your job prospects a bit, but in like 10 years, that's just a funny story. But if a video of you miming along to an anime villain monologue ends up on a cringe compilation on TikTok, you are done. Forever. You might as well go live in a cave in Chad, mate. You will never be taken seriously ever again, especially as the generation of doom scrollers sort of age up through society. I'm being somewhat facetious here, but not all the way. Take our Lord and Saviour Elon Musk, for example. You can use many words to describe him, but one that every single member of the millennial generation and below would use is cringe. How else could you sum up so succinctly lying about your video game account, or the dark gothic MAGA thing, or doing loads of ketamine and gurning his face off in the Oval Office? It is cringe as no one's business, and it results in people not being able to take him seriously at all. You can help tank an entire country into the ground and still have people take you seriously. But what if you weren't actively trying to tank an entire country into the ground? What if you were trying to save a country? Could you still do that whilst being the cringiest person this side of Reddit? Well, that is the question Alan Moore decided to ask with his revolutionary V in V for Vendetta. And that is the question we will be answering here in this video, looking at the second book in the V for Vendetta series. Can you still inspire revolution despite biblical cringe? And on top of that, we'll also be picking up the running theme of this video series by looking at the other impossibilities, not just the cringe, of the revolution depicted here. Before we do that though, quick thoughts on this second book. I think everything I said about the previous book in this series holds up while I'm talking about this second one. The dark, atmospheric brutality just carries right on going, maintaining the tone that so brilliantly complements the story being told. The themes of fascism and war resonate to a harrowing degree right about now, and the artwork continues to convey the sheer miserable sadness in which the majority of the characters live their lives. This second book takes the focus off of V and puts more of it on the side character Evie, and this does result in it being more psychological and more of an exploration of one person's troubled mind, and less of sort of an action-packed revenge thriller. But that's fine, especially because, as you can probably tell from me calling him cringe over and over again, I don't particularly like V's character. I like what he stands for, and I like what he's doing, but I don't really like the way he acts. So less of him is good. Plus, if he kept up the clip he was going in the last book, he would run out of London landmarks to blow up halfway through this one. And there is a bit of middle book syndrome going on here, a sort of lull in the progression of the overarching story, but that's sort of counterbalanced with an acceleration in the progression of the character development, as well as fleshing out the world and the backstory of the world. So while V doesn't actually kill anyone of note in this one or explode anything, it still feels like things are going places. We aren't just spinning our wheels here, we aren't just filling up the page count. It is still properly good. Though I don't particularly like it in written work when a character's accent is written out phonetically. And we get a Scottish guy in this whose accent is written out phonetically, and he is harder to understand than Limmy trying to say purple burglar alarm. The cringe V commits in this book comes in two flavours. Private cringe for the viewing pleasure of a few characters and us, the audience, and public cringe where his try-hard antics are broadcast to the people at large. Private cringe could be seen as harmless to the overall goal of revolution because less people see it, and we're all probably cringe when we think no one's watching. But the difference between us and V is that V does have people watching. Us. And I'm sort of 90% sure we don't have people watching us. So when V is cringe in private, it doesn't so much kill his credibility in the scope of the story and the characters in universe, but it does dent his credibility with us. The book opens up with V singing a song called The Vicious Cabaret, accompanied by sheet music. Music copyright V Songs 1983. Now, singing is not cringe. Will Smith seems determined to change that fact, but he has not succeeded yet. However, where in most cases a person singing a song is not cringe, this person, V, singing this song, The Vicious Cabaret, is... It's this guy's try-hard commitment to this sort of Showtime, boardwalk, Punch and Judy aesthetic that takes what could have been like an ominous, bubbling sort of intro and turns it into something that you just roll your eyes at. Plus, it's a song in print form, and if you've read any Tolkien, you know what that means. Skip. The dude does magic for no reason. I mean, obviously it's symbolic, but I would argue that doing magic for the sake of symbolism is even more cringy than doing magic for no reason. And then there is the way he talks. I mentioned in a previous video that V talks in sort of rhyme and quotes poetry, and that is cringy in and itself. But he sort of digivolves in this book into this grandiose robot, laying it on thicker than someone who's just got into creative writing. He imprisons and tortures Evie for a very long time in a very brutal way. And when she asks why, he says, "Because I love you, because I want to set you free." He says she was already in a prison and that she's been in a prison all her life. Now, I should say here that V is insane. His mind is completely broken by the torture he himself went through, but being insane, I'm afraid, does not make you exempt from being cringe. You see all those nutters in like those police interrogation videos, spouting all sorts of ridiculousness, trying to sound like slick operators, too smart for the system, too cool for school, and you're just like, geez, pack it in, mate. That's what it's like here, that's what V's like in private. What he is like in public is worse, and would do far more harm to his cause than help. V attacks a television station and forced them to play a video of him addressing the nation. Now, I need to say up top that the message V is trying to convey in this national address is something that, on a moral level, I agree with. He's essentially calling out the entire population of England for allowing the country to be led into the fascist dirt. If a country finds itself in the fascist dirt, its people are to blame for not standing up and making their opposition heard. He also calls out the government, obviously, as well as the sort of general societal degradation that has occurred. So I agree with the principle of V's national address. And in the world of the story, and maybe our world too, it needed to be said. It is how it is said that is the issue. This national address takes the form of an extended metaphor, wherein V, taking the form of like a line manager at a company, talks to the people of England like they are collectively an underperforming subordinate. An extended metaphor with all its frills and embellishments is, for us the reader, cringe because it's super tryhard, and because of what it is for them, the people in world. An extended metaphor is not something conducive to getting your point across. He is talking to a nation of people that he himself believes are dense enough to have allowed the country to spiral into the abyss. Speak to them clearly. This is not the time to be literally waxing lyrical. There are men with guns descending upon your position. There is no way this message would resonate or even register to anyone other than people who read poetry in coffee shops. It undercuts the entire goal of revolution, but he can't help himself. He is so lost in his own source, and it only makes the subsequent revolution that does end up happening all the more unbelievable. Speaking of which, just before I go into all the things V does in this book that I don't think he should be able to do, I'd just like to remind you that he is superhuman somewhat, and he is up against the literal numbskulls in the British government. That's the legwork that the story puts in to make this at least somewhat believable. But again, what I'm saying with these videos is it's just not enough. V does some things that takes the suspension of disbelief and sort of just laughs in its face. He, in broad daylight, in full disguise, a disguise that the police are looking out for now, walks up to the front of a cinema, breaks one of those like poster holders, steals the poster, and then graffito tags another. Where are the cameras that we know the government has everywhere? They're not really there except the time V is showing deactivating one with like a miracle universal remote. Well, they actually are there. We get confirmation that a lot of his antics have actually been caught on video, and he's still able to wander about freely. How? The attack on the television station, at which V broadcasts his aforementioned national address, also makes you ask how? How did one man do this so easily, cutting through the guards and the security systems like they're not even there? We even get a character break it down beat by beat, but this feels more like lampshading rather than actually explaining anything or answering the question how. V's got this reoccurring bit where he swaps himself out with a dummy or even another person, and it too comes across quite unbelievable. I know this ties into the sleight of hand magic we saw V do at the very beginning, and I think every time he does it, there is a portion of time off panel where it could be set up, but the ease of which he's doing it starts to make it feel like actual magic, like he's Kakashi out here with the substitution jutsu. He's been at this revolution for nearly a year too. The story starts on the 5th of November 1997, and this second book ends in September 1998. He's been out there blowing up landmarks, breaking into secure locations, killing high-profile people for 10 months, and he's still free as a bird. How? And then there is the Shadow Gallery, V's hideout. It is impossibly big, full of impossible stuff that would have been impossible to get in there. He's got a big disco room, complete with a giant glittery disco ball. How did he get that in dystopian England? I wouldn't really know how to get one now in real-world, only slightly dystopian England, other than maybe just ordering it off Amazon, I guess. He builds a replica prison where he keeps Evie, complete with fake guards and wardens, large enough and realistic enough to convince her that it is the real thing. How? How any of this doesn't matter. That's the proper answer to this question. How is V achieving these things? It doesn't matter. Looking at this story like this is not something you are supposed to do, so when you do, you can't expect the answers you're looking for. However, that being said, if you're not supposed to find the answers, you should do your best to stop your readers asking the questions. It's one of those fine balances that I just don't think V for Vendetta quite hits. Though, as I said in the first book, I think it would hit it if V's actions were toned down or the world around him was toned up. Wait, no. I can only handle one character speaking in rhyme. I think any more would just break me. Hello. Thanks a lot for getting to the end of the video. Like and subscribe. I know I said this would be a fridge video, but I kind of figured out the actual schedule going forward after I said that. So, the fridge video is not going to be next one. It's not going to be the next one. It's going to be the one after that. So, 3 videos time. See you in 2 weeks for a movie one.